out there.
Yeah.
And it's not me. Like, I'm here to build.
Welcome to part 3. So far, we've discovered fake orphans, millions of dollars stolen, and a cast of sleazy characters. But now, it's time to put it all together. What is the truth? And who's to blame? We're going to start by going through leaked text messages of the CryptoZoo team to understand all of their motivation. Then we'll go to blockchain evidence and show who sold what. And finally, we'll confront some of the people responsible. Before we do any of that, we have to start in March of 2021, 6 months before the token even launched. Our 4 suspects, Logan, Crypto King, Eddie, and Jeff, are in a group chat discussing CryptoZoo, which starts as a copy of something else. Quote, I like imitating
Even if you
did
that.
Jake the Crypto King says.
Fuck you.
Logan replies, I agree. And initially, it wasn't called CryptoZoo at all. It was called Crypto Pets, and they were going to sell a Pets token. And pretty early on, it became clear this was all about money, how they were going to sell this thing to investors. In fact, Crypto King said he thought it was worth at least $20 million in only 6 months, saying the range is insane. $20 to $210 million. It's beautiful wherever we land. Eddie jumped in at this point and talked about how he could sell the project as an investment to a friend, Matt Higgins, saying, quote, he has to spend that $350 million somewhere. Why not us? And Logan says, I love that idea. Crypto King, I'm in. And of course, you have Jeff saying, let's go. So you can see right there, they wanted to sell this game before it had even launched. Now later, Eddie amends the list of investors and says, quote, investors will be Gary Vee, Todd Morley, James Altucher, Ryan Kavanaugh, and others, confirmed on my end. Supposedly, they had $100 million of investment interest. Now, I actually went to some of these investors and asked if this was true, and the one person who responded denied it, Ryan Kavanaugh. Quote, nope, not even a little bit. So this looks like it could be yet another lie from Eddie Ibanez, but either way, it looks like there was more issues than just finding investors because the team wanted to pre-sell tokens, and not everyone was sure it would be legal. Jake the Crypto King mentions that, quote, if we have a pre-sale, it opens us up to SEC issues. And Jeff agrees and says, don't want to do anything that brings the SEC eyeballs. Now, not everyone wanted to be so cautious, though. Logan argues everyone does pre-sale with coins. Eddie agrees. He says, you absolutely can do it. I have the SEC down, private and pre-sale. And honestly, it was quite the dilemma for this team who wanted money. You know, do a pre-sale, make millions, but you know, you have these potential legal issues. Don't do it, you make less money. So Crypto King comes up with a middle solution. He says, if we can't sell, no pre-sale. We can still trade them in the liquidity pool. And this is the start of a new disaster, which takes a bit of explaining. Now, just so we're clear, a pre-sale is where you sell investors coins, usually at a discount, before you've launched. And then when you launch, you give them those coins. Now, like I said, the team didn't want to do that. So what they did instead was they bought the tokens on the open market right after launch. But they tried to get clever with it because they didn't actually announce that they were launching this coin at all. They stealth launched it on June 11th and didn't announce this token through Logan until August 18th, meaning they had all that time to silently buy up as much of the supply at a steep discount as they wanted. And the idea here was that doing this, the team could get these tokens extremely cheaply, which is kind of like a pre-sale, but you know, without all the SEC troubles. And Crypto King makes this clear on June 7th when he says, quote, launch of the liquidity pool is where huge money will be made because you get in cheaper. And then says, we, the team, begin buying out the liquidity pool. Once the team has exhausted funds for the liquidity pool buying, we send the contract address to friends, family, investors who want to be able to get in. So obviously the plan is we buy first, then we give it to our close friends and family, and then maybe the public eventually, right? And even the day before, Crypto King reminds everyone, quote, Zoo Day is tomorrow. I highly recommend everyone get a few hundred to a few $1,000s in Zoo when it goes live. It will likely 10 to 1,000x. So that was their plan. Rather than doing a pre-sale, they were going to do this stealth launch and hopefully get tokens cheaply the same way, but without all the legal troubles. Or at least that was the plan. Because on stealth launch day, this is where things first started to go wrong for the team. At first, everything seemed to go normal. The team sat in a circle and literally bought it out as planned. But the next day, Crypto King says something odd. Quote, a bot is playing with our tokens. Kind of cool to watch them work. But he doesn't mention who this bot is. And he also says the Cole finished selling, but doesn't mention who that is. Now, Jeff, Logan's manager, replies upset. He says, how do we prevent someone doing what they just did again? We went from a $130 million to $26 million market cap in 2 hours. It's not cool to watch. Logan jumps in. Yeah, wait, how did that happen? And he also says, what asshole? How did anyone get this token except for us and none of us sold? And I think actually this is incredibly suspicious because the implication of what Logan's saying is, hey, we tried to scheme this really well. We tried to all buy this without letting anyone know. How did anyone else figure out we were buying it, right? And this is where a fight ensues that's going to become really interesting. Crypto King deflects the question by saying, my buyer pushed it back up to $40 million. And Logan says, no, bro, F your buyer. Explain to me what just happened and how there were 30 token holders. And Jake tries to explain that this was just traders and bots happening to find the token. But Logan says only 5 of us knew about it. Jake says, well, many people chase volume and new tokens. And to some extent, he's kind of right. But Logan replies, cap. He doesn't believe it. Quote, I can't be the only one who thinks that's too incredibly convenient. Like someone was tipped off. And look, no one's more critical of Logan than me. But as I'm reading these texts, I was kind of like agreeing. Like, yeah, it does seem too nonchalant when somebody's ruining your secret plot. You know what I mean? Because Crypto King was acting very strange. He says, we created $40 million out of thin air. This is a success. Logan replies, this nonchalance worries me. F 40 million. It was at 120 million, which again, it's all about the money with these guys. But truth be told, I did agree that Crypto King's attitude seemed strange in these texts. I mean, he's not wrong that bots are a thing. Traders are a thing. But it sounded like he didn't want anyone to look into it. So, naturally, I looked into it. And what I found surprised me, because there were bots, but there's also unusual human activity during this time. So I tracked the 5 biggest buyers of this zoo coin. And lo and behold, this is what I found. Logan was one of the biggest buyers, which is what you'd expect. But he wasn't the biggest. In fact, 2 of the biggest wallets seem to be associated with Crypto King himself. And here's where I paused. I said, wait a second. Why did this guy buy more zoo tokens than Logan when this is mostly Logan's project? I thought Crypto King was a small part of this team. And so to get more info on this, I actually got access to an internal meeting note from the day of June 11th, which they called Zoo Day. And in it, we find actually some interesting information. We see that 5 founders bought in. They apparently were, quote, trading in circles until each person maxed out. But on the list of buyers and how much they spent are only 4 people, when we know 5 people bought. We have Danny, Logan's assistant, for 20K, Logan Paul for 100K, Jeff at 100K, and Eddie at 100K, but Crypto King is nowhere to be found. And yet, on the blockchain, I have him putting in $200,000 worth. And this number, by the way, seemingly is confirmed in a conversation I had with Crypto King, where he said, my 200K investment. And the reason this is important is because it does imply that something shady was going on the day of the stealth launch. Because Crypto King had a relatively small role in this whole project. He was the advisor, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like you can see from the internal meeting notes, they have a breakdown of who's getting what in terms of founder tokens. And like Logan Paul's getting 51%, Eddie's getting 30%, Jeff's getting 10%. Jake's only getting 5% of tokens, but he has the most of these like stealth launch tokens, which makes no sense. And it got me thinking that maybe what explains this suspicious behavior around like, oh, don't worry about who was buying at the time of the launch. Maybe that's explained because perhaps no one knew that he was buying up large parts of the token supply. Maybe he was buying it to sell later. Now, of course, that's speculation. So that's why I confronted Crypto King on all of this. But before we get to that call, let's address the elephant in the room. Logan didn't accuse Crypto King of being a scam. It was the other way around. Crypto King told Logan Paul he was a scammer. And the question is, why? Well, to answer that, we have to go from June, the stealth launch date, to September 1st, the official launch date of CryptoZoo.
September 1st, cryptozoo.co.
Now, the day of the launch was a bit strange because you might think, well, they already have a token, right? But the first thing they did was actually create a new Zoo token with a different code, but the same name. And they actually airdropped all the holders of the first Zoo token with an identical amount of those coins on the second Zoo token. So you might be wondering, why did they do that? Well, maybe it's to change the smart contract, but maybe it's because of what they did do. They blacklisted some of the holders. In other words, they didn't airdrop to everyone, including Jake the Crypto King. They excluded his wallets so it couldn't get these Zoo coins. Jake texts the group about this the next day, saying, quote,
Let's explore your future with Udemy. You can learn how to program and build websites, study design and create logos, improve your presentation skills, and sell your ideas. With Udemy, you can learn practical skills from thousands of online courses taught by real-world experts. Explore your future. Udemy.
みんな、もう一度だ。ここってアラバスタか？たとえここが思い出の中でも誰も死んでほしくないの。俺たちの命くらい一緒にかけてみろ。仲間だろうが。私は生きる。あなたたちには決して屈しない。
役に立たない部下はただの足かせだ。
部下じゃねえ。仲間だ。あいつらがいてくれるから俺は負けねえんだ。みんな聞いてくれ。エースはあそこにいる。この世界は現実じゃねえかもしれねえけど、俺はエースを助けたい。
先に行けルフィ。こいつは俺たちで止める。
エースを必ず助けて。
お前にはまだこのステージは早すぎる。
早くねえよ。今は一人じゃねえからな。
七部会も安くなったもんだね。
俺の言うこともろくに聞かねえで無茶ばっかりしやがって。
貴様ら兄弟も後ろの一味もここから生きて返せば正義の名折れじゃろうが。
今回はお前らがいる。俺に力を貸してくれ。
俺は恩人をドフラミンゴに。
The Zoo team made a major error this weekend. They chose not to communicate, mint a new token, and airdrop it to whatever wallets they determined fit. This decision came from Eddie and Logan, and I had no part in it. 11,250 wallets before the airdrop, under 11,000 after. They chose to blacklist and ban over 200 wallets. Now, who those wallets are, I have no idea. But he continues, quote, as a founder like Logan, Jeff, Eddie, and Danny, I had purchased a large quantity of tokens. 5+ of my wallets had been blacklisted from the original team's buys. Now, I don't know why he had 5+ wallets there, but okay. He says 80+ billion Zoo tokens were confiscated from me to date without any communication. So, wow. That's why Crypto King accused Logan of stealing from him or scamming. It's because he was frozen out of a lot of his wallets. And then we get to the text you guys all know. He says, Logan, you stole $40 million. You're a scammer. You're a con artist. All that stuff. You betrayed your community. The reality is you aren't that guy. And Logan responds, oh, Jake, trust me, bro. I am that guy. Q, in the arms of an angel. And look, I mean, what do we make of this? Well, I don't know. I can't root for either of these guys. Because it sounds like Logan stabbed him in the back. But it sounds like Crypto King may have stabbed him in the back in the first place, right? Because it does appear like he bought tokens that maybe everyone didn't know about. So I'm really not a fan of anyone in this situation. And by the way, this whole thing was structured so misleadingly from the beginning. I have to talk to you a bit about it because you might think that these tokens were the only tokens they had, but it's not even true. In the distribution section of Zoo's white paper, they say there's 2 trillion tokens, and a quarter of that are allocated to development, marketing, and founders. Those aren't even the tokens we're talking about right now, because they claim that those tokens were locked up for 6 months, and then afterwards, 10% was unlocked every month. And if that's true, there would be no reason for these funds to be blacklisted, right? Why would you blacklist something that would be locked up? And the answer is because, well, the founders had more than one set of tokens. Not only did they supposedly have these founder tokens that were locked up and couldn't be sold, these stealth launch tokens were different from that. It's like a whole different thing. And the tokens that they bought, that all of these guys bought, they could sell at basically any time because they weren't locked up, which is a massive problem. And this fact was explicitly laid out in their meeting notes with only one rule. They say, quote, no selling until $200 million market cap, and don't impact the market more than 3%, and not impact the market more than 10% in a day. And by the way, this is basically conspiracy to manipulate a market. You know, they're literally having insider rules for how to sell, but we're gonna look past that, right? Because these rules eventually kind of changed. A text from Logan's manager, Jeff Levin, came to the group chat, Zoo founders, saying, guys, new and absolute rules. No one is to sell or transfer any zoo. Logan's going to make the call when we can make moves. And Logan replies, your tokens do not leave your wallet. This is a game. Now, that all sounds well and good. Don't sell your tokens, don't sell your tokens. But the reality was, I mean, they're just kind of trusting each other because these tokens that they're talking about, they're unlocked. They're not locked up. And they could sell it at any time. And I guess the question on my mind is that why Crypto King's tokens were blacklisted? Because they thought he would sell? Or maybe it's just the fact they found out he bought and they didn't know about all those tokens. It's honestly hard to say without knowing more evidence. And this is where we're going to jump into the blockchain. Now, I've tracked the wallets of the entire team and identified the largest seller of Zoo in the team. And it wasn't Jeff. It wasn't Danny. It wasn't even Logan. It was Crypto King. Crypto King sold, by my calculations, millions of dollars. And I know what you're thinking. How's that possible, right? I thought his tokens were blacklisted the day of the official launch. How could he sell that much? Well, the answer is that not all of his tokens were blacklisted. He had even more tokens behind the scenes. And what's worse, the CryptoZoo team actually gave him back a lot of his blacklisted tokens, which I guess you can see as a good thing or a bad thing because he then turned around and sold those tokens, right? And from my blockchain analysis across his blacklisted tokens he got back and the tokens that he had squirreled away the whole time, he ended up making $6 million. He did this by sending out tokens from these larger wallets to dozens of smaller wallets, selling it, and then sending the money to final cash out wallets. So I used those final wallets to calculate the amount he made. Now, I know, look, it's a lot to accuse someone of selling $6 million in a project that doesn't even work. It's a giant scam. So I wanted to give him a chance to defend himself. So I got on a call with Crypto King. Here's what he said when I finally revealed that I knew that he would sold.
It's going to change the whole story. Yeah, I'll go on the record for you, and yes, I'm going to show you the text message that say we can sell at these ascending market caps, and literally, I'm 100%. It sounds like your biggest issue with me is that I sold. And if that's your biggest issue with me, that's the truth.
It's the Roadway Replay, the show about the deadly dangers of distracted driving.
Time for the lightning round, Brian. Let's rewind your drive to work.
Just scout off some machos. Cheese and pork make everything better.
Question. How far did your car travel while you checked your phone? 20 feet. 100 feet. The length of a football field.
100 feet.
Oh, sorry, Brian. In just 3 seconds on the highway, your car traveled the length of a football field. Best of...
Wow, that is a big admission. Selling tokens for a project that you're an advisor on when the project has never been delivered. Although, Crypto King insists that it wasn't $6 million, and he wasn't trying to rug it off. In fact, really, he might be the one who got screwed over in all this.
Like, I didn't sell $6 million worth. That's going to be other wallets, but that's probably not going to be able to be proven, except for them saying, can you send BNB to all these different wallets for me? Which that I'll be able to show you that I was giving BNB to the whole team. I'll also be able to show also show you that I was frozen down and was never given the 15 billion tokens back that I paid for in cash.
Okay.
Show you all of those things on the record, and then you can also say that I did sell, which is also true.
Yep.
As long as it's accompanied with he was a founder that was supposed to be given 5% of the project and was never given a token or paid, worked for almost a year on the project. As long as that goes in with it, then at least that tells my side of the story so people understand that it's not like I was trying to rug a project. It's like I put $250,000 into a project plus 6 months of time, and the founder never did anything he said he was going to do, and then hired a bunch of devs that didn't do what they were going to do, and every time I gave advice, the advice was I was told to fuck off. So it can be that story, or it can be he sold all this amount and he got in early. Well, yeah, that's like 1% of it though.
Incredible. He sounds like he views himself as the victim, or at least like he got screwed too, which just has to win the gold medal for me for mental gymnastics, because I mean, he literally had put $200,000 into this and he says he made millions of dollars. Even if you take him at his word that he didn't make the full 6 million, he admits to me later that it might be a pretty close guess. He tells me via text, quote, "I don't care if you tell people I sold a few million and leave it at that." Well, okay, $6 million, a few million dollars, it's millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars when you only put in $200,000 into a project that's never been delivered, doesn't work, scammed people out of their money. How is he saying he's the one who's in the wrong? Well, in his view, what he did was not wrong. It might have been arguably unethical, but it wasn't illegal. And what Logan did, well, that was illegal.
You can say the timing was bad and it was inappropriate to sell, but the reality is I bought tokens open market and sold them open market. So there was nothing illegal about that. Ethically, arguable. The rest that Logan did to me was ethically wrong and illegal.
Now, what do I think of all this finger pointing? Well, I think it's pretty wild to try to make yourself look like the lesser of two evils when you made millions of dollars and investors lost millions. I just do. Now, at the same time, I want to be fair to Crypto King. He's not the only one who sold here. But I also have to say, not everyone from the founders did sell. For example, Jeff, Logan's manager, to my knowledge, never sold. Neither did Logan Paul, which was a huge surprise. All their wallets that I tracked, held onto their tokens, which is good, and to their credit for a game that doesn't work. But you know who did sell? Eddie Ivanos. The guy who didn't pay the initial devs, the supposed MIT orphan? Yeah, from what I could see, his initial wallet got a ton of Zoo, sent it to a bunch of smaller wallets, and then sold off, kind of like Crypto King. And for my calculations, he made about $1.7 million. Now, I have to tell you that like Jake, I tried to confront him and give him the opportunity to defend himself, but he never replied to my emails or my phone calls, and we're just gonna have to leave it there. But we're not done with the money just yet, because we still need to talk about the eggs. Remember, we talked about how they profited from ZooCoin, but they also made millions from eggs. According to their own internal meeting notes, they plan to make about $3 million selling these eggs for 0.1 a piece. And that's not far from what I calculated they actually did make, which was about $2.5 million. In the meeting notes, they say they're going to clear expenses and then do payouts. But payout who? They don't say. And these expenses are referencing an earlier note suggesting Eddie and Logan had both spent $300,000 each, which I'll say is not $1 million. But okay, we'll give it to them, right? So they got paid back their $600,000, but where does the rest of the money go? Well, on the Ethereum side, there's one payout for $364,000 to one wallet and another $1 million to another. Both are Coinbase addresses, so we don't know who exactly that is, but clearly someone on the team made a lot of money from these NFT egg sales that do not work. And on the Binance Smart Chain side, where they also made money selling eggs, the zoo that was spent was supposed to be set aside for 50% to be burned, which they did, but the other 50% was supposed to be allocated for wildlife charities and crypto zoo development. Now, neither seems to have happened because all the money is in a wallet that the team still controls, so there are open questions about, where that money is going to go and where the Ethereum money went. Did it go to Jake? Did it go to Logan? Did it go to Jeff? Did it go to Eddie? We don't know. But what I know for sure is that no one was innocent, although there are certainly shades of guilt you can argue about, because, of course, not everyone did sell. You could look at that as the most important thing. Logan Paul didn't sell. Jeff, Logan's manager, didn't sell. But does that make them innocent? Well, I don't think so, because they never built the game they promised people. Logan Paul specifically, got millions of dollars spent on this game on the promise of the technology that he never built, that his team never built. And he never addressed the failure except to blame his developers who weren't paid. And you could say he promised to work backwards to fix it, but then never did. But at the same time, it's clearly not just Logan's fault either, because there are major team issues, right? You've got Eddie selling millions of dollars of Zoo and then allegedly not paying developers. You've got Jeff, who was warned about Eddie, who kept him on the team anyways. And then after they fired Eddie, seems to also have failed to pay developers on time. And then you've got Crypto King himself, who sold the most,
Hey,
but
I
claims
deserve
he
that.
was the guy who was scammed,
GGs.
which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's just like Avengers Assemble for the worst possible
That
team
was
you can
cold.
imagine to build
That
a
was
crypto
cold.
game. And so,
Forward it?
unsurprisingly, it turns
Oh.
out a lot of these guys backstab each other. And so, finding a way to
You know,
wrap
hear me?
this up was difficult because it's hard to assign exact proportions
Oh, man.
of blame. Because if you focus on any one
crazy.
person, you kind of miss why this project failed. CryptoZoo, at the end of the day, did not fail because the price went too low. CryptoZoo failed because they never built a functioning game that they promised. Really, the number one problem, even bigger than people selling millions of dollars of tokens, was that they never paid the developers on time, as boring as that is. And as a result, the investors not only got rugged for millions of dollars, which is a problem, but they just didn't get the core thing they had bought from the beginning, which was not a crypto project, but something different.
I'm excited to launch my game.
You keep using and you just did it again. You keep using a word there. Game. You're not using like a project. It's a game.
It's a game. It's a really fun game that makes you money.
That's it. That, to me, is the biggest scam in all of this. Yes, it's a huge problem. People stole millions of dollars. But it's a symptom of the larger issue, which is people didn't actually care about the game or this, whatever you want to call it. They just cared about the money. And this is ultimately what happens when you have an influencer LARPing as a businessman. It's what happens when you have a liar LARPing as a developer. And it's what happens when you have a shady crypto guru LARPing as a crypto king. You end up with a mess, and in my personal opinion, a fraud as well. And now that this thing blew up in their faces, these four seem to be dodging accountability faster than SBF dodges calls with me. Because I have reached out to everyone involved, tried to get all of their statements on things. So far, no one has taken accountability or offered to refund the victims at all. They're all hiding, pretending these victims don't even exist. But they do exist. And throughout my investigations, they've been the heartbeat of this whole thing. So I decided to close this investigations in a bit of a unique way. Rather than me deciding who's to blame or me deciding what you should think, I want to give them the last word.
Everyone's to blame. Logan, in the sense of his poor management, it's his project. He still made these promises to people.
I think everyone it is to blame, including Logan Paul, of course, because he was the one in charge of this, and he was responsible for all of this mess.
Everybody has a big part and a massive cross to bear.
Each one of them scammed the project in their own way, and then off to the sunset they went.
It was his job to check the team to make sure that everyone is working together, to make sure that he is giving the funds of the people that put it into his project under his name to people that he actually trusts. So in my opinion, if the team failed to perform, that's Logan Paul to blame.
The community is destroyed. People is angry. They just want their money back. They just want their normal lives back.
Reimburse those loyal fans that they have, or how to rebuild the project, actually deliver on the project. For those who are still holding their eggs, like I am, for those holding the Zoo coins, so maybe they could just deliver what they promised, and that would give some redemption to this fiasco.
He's not said a word. That's as bad, or almost as bad, as taking the money. It's the not coming out and just being a man about it.
At least we deserve to know what was happening.
It's just really annoying the fuck out
while
of
we
me.
were waiting for almost a year and a half. The fact that we're hearing this information not from Logan Paul, but from pretty much an investigator, it really says a lot.
What did this loss mean to me? It meant a lot. Not just personally, because I lost quite a lot of money. My kid and also my wife were invested. It was like telling a kid that Santa doesn't exist or something like that, because she really believed in all that game. She really believed in Logan Paul. Kids look up to that kind of people. So it was some kind of broken dream.
My mum was invested. My sister was also invested. So, I mean, my daughter even had a couple of the eggs and animals, which the loss for them hurts the most because obviously it's just not nice to see.
For somebody to win, somebody has to lose. That's a gamble you take, whether you get into crypto or not. I got in knowing that I could lose, which is fine. That's on me. But I thought if I lost something, it would be because I sold at the wrong time, or the game didn't earn as much as I thought it would, and therefore my things weren't as valuable. But you never go into it thinking it's not something that they're going to just sell out from underneath you, because they could make so much more if they actually delivered on what they said, even if they delivered on close to what they said. And that's the thing, is you don't think they're going to rug you because there was so much money in a game wallet.
Ultimately, at the end, the way I see it is it was fraud. Logan could have put out the red flags, told people to stop investing more into it, because people were investing to this project until the very last minute, where the ship was still just sinking down the ocean, and people were still putting their cash into it.
If I was on a call with Logan Paul, I would ask him, where did his redemption arc go? I think he was on such a good streak going about his YouTube career and boxing as well, and it's sad to see that because of money, once again, we have degraded down to
good job,
stealing
buddy.
from his
Good
youth.
job.
What will I say to Logan Paul and his team if I could? Well, actually, I could, because I have an NFT from other project that gives me the right to see Logan Paul, to meet and greet with him, and I will actually use that right to tell him this story again, show him this video in front of me, and see how he reacts when he sees that my family, my whole family and my kid are affected with this situation, because I think that's not human.
You would think that Logan would have told his fellow followers, his loyal fans, that, hey guys, back off, red flag, things are there's turbulence in the water. No, not a single word, nothing whatsoever.
To market products at children and knowing full well that his team is made up of people that he believes are shady characters. Yeah, he still goes on Forbes interviews and says the game is great for kids. It's gonna be amazing.
Who loves it most? The kids. Their kids love it.
Our developers' kids, all of them, cannot stop playing the game.
I think that is inhumane, the way that side of it's been marketed.
Knowing what's happened since, knowing that all of the people that were there from the beginning, like all of the guys that I'd speak to on a daily basis, that we've all just got nothing now. Ideally, I just want to say I'll see you in court.
This is one team that can't be stopped. The ring is shrinking.
For the last 6 months, I've been working on my own NFT project. CryptoZoo.co. It's a really fun game that makes you money.
I lost around $50,000 in crypto.
I lost $40,000.
$500,000 Australian.
I'm telling you, it's just a picture. There's nothing I can do with it.
Wait, you can't even hatch?
No.
We had an issue
this guy's gonna save me.
CryptoZoo, our lead developer,
took the code that he made, fled to Switzerland, actually fled to Switzerland, and like held it hostage for $1 million.
He never gave me anything at all, ever. Eddie promised me, 5 crypto tokens and $1 million. He never paid me.
Wait a second. Who's Eddie? I thought that all of this was Logan Paul. What's this random guy doing in Logan Paul's project? And who is Eddie Ivanov? To begin answering the question of who Eddie is, I decided to take a deep dive. I started by looking through all the news articles I could on Eddie, where I found out he graduated from MIT, and from there became a data scientist and cybersecurity expert, and used that technical background to win a Super Bowl for the Eagles. And there were videos on him too, which all painted him as brilliant.
This is amazing. Just for the creeps and listeners out there, Danny has called no less than 4 times trying to figure out how to get here. Now, there is an address.
He's coming. We've been told he's coming.
We are a place.
Now,
we are an address here in Los
we
Angeles.
are at a place in time where we have phones that have a map on it. Now, generally speaking, I'd say that.
Did he drive himself? Question.
Well,
I'm going to bet you that May, being the A+ student she is, she got very specific with the directions of where to park, how to enter into the alley, and then
Right.
where and what door to walk through.
But at what building?
The same one with the address.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I gave a satellite photo with a big red circle around where the parking lot was.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
I tried. But you know what?
Look,
It's fine.
You can lead a horse to
icon.
water.
He's an 80-year-old icon.
You can lead a horse to water.
You could lead an icon to a podcast studio, but you can't make him show up.
But you can't make him walk through the door.
Oh, wait, I hear a voice.
I hear a voice as well.
I hear a voice I grew up with.
It's like Santa coming, isn't it?
Come have a seat.
Yeah, in the hot seat. In the hot seat, baby.
It's so good to see you, ladies and gentlemen. Daddy DeVito.
Hey, you guys. Oh my God.
Global superstar.
He's
and
late because he went to some people's house.
How did that go for them?
Oh, that was really good.
Here's the question: did you drive yourself, or did somebody drive
I
you?
drove myself, and I used the thing, and I.
Were we missing a north or a south or something, or an east or a west? Is that?
I have to pee, by the way.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Wait, by the way.
Go pee.
Anyway, it was like around the block, but it was really good. Very big fans, and I took some selfies, and we had a good time.
Did he?
But I didn't know. I swear to God, I said when I called you, I said, "You punked me."
Well, you texted me very funny.
Because I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
And it was nobody. It was like a residential neighborhood. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And the people were very nice. And they had a Christmas tree up, not as elaborate as you guys.
And you just knocked on the door?
Well, I rang their little security bell. Yeah. They came to the door as a newlywed couple, and they were very happy to see me.
What did they say? What was their reaction?
What was that? They said, "Well,
well, come on in.
Come on, why? What do you?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
I said, well, I'm here to do the. Then I started to backtrack. I didn't want to say like too much because I thought it was like you guys were busting my balls.
Yeah.
I say like it wouldn't be the first time.
That would have been good.
No, it would have been really
Speaking
good.
of your balls, you need to go to the bathroom.
That's my bladder.
I don't know where the pee comes from.
It doesn't come from the balls.
This isn't a biology podcast.
Well, it could dribble onto the balls. I don't know how.
Well, if it dribbles onto the balls, it's going to get really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I better go.
Yeah, you better go.
I'm going to drain the monster.
Drain the monster,
Okay.
baby.
I'll be right back.
this is a big day.
This is big. Look at
Monumental.
I'm gonna put my sweater on.
Yeah,
Okay?
get your Christmas
Put your
sweater
sweater on,
going.
man. Thank you.
You know.
This is so good.
While you're putting on that sweater, I would like to pose a question to all of you, but mostly you because I've heard plenty from them, and I don't really want to hear it.
You've had enough of that.
How do you feel about Christmas music?
Yeah.
Starting to play before December?
I don't listen.
Or before Thanksgiving.
I don't listen to it. I don't go anywhere where it's like I don't go to an elevator or I don't go
You're
to
the
like
mall.
a mall.
Yeah.
Nobody in my house plays it.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, but I don't dislike it, but I think it's stupid. And Christmas is like really like basically just to sell things, right? Because that's what happened like in the economy like years ago around that time. Sales were dipping. So somebody said, well, we got to do something to fix this. So let's do some holiday.
Yeah.
So they picked, they co-opted the winter solstice or whatever it's called.
Well,
and,
Jesus'
and they...
Well, Jesus' birthday.
Well, no,
Let's be
Jesus
clear.
wasn't born that day.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, listen.
What?
I wasn't there.
I shouldn't say
what
that.
Day was?
I shouldn't tell.
What day?
Because the idea, the whole.
we don't know.
Well, they already scientifically researched this.
Yeah,
that
they found out
they
he's born.
followed the star in Bethlehem at that time of the year. That star didn't exist. It existed at a different time. So he was actually born, I think, in March or April. Yeah,
Next thing you're going to tell me that the Bible's not true. Fucking guy.
Well, Danny, you've ruined Christmas. You've ruined Jesus.
But
and
I chickened out of doing the meat, what do you call it, the 23andMe thing. I went, I sent in the thing, and then they sent me the kit, and then I said, like, what am I gonna do with it? Because I figure like I got like a lot of my family's from Calabria and from down. One of my grandparents is from like Calabria, which is right at the boot of Italy, and right there is Albania. And she spoke. I only knew her like when I was like a really little kid, and she was like already 80 something and dying like of something. Laying in a bed, she broke her hip. Tragic story. Sorry to bring it up. But
great start to the podcast.
Great Christmas story.
Happy holidays,
but the
everybody.
idea is that she spoke a language called Geg. And now people out there may know what that is. Some people may know what it is. It's a kind of an Albanian kind of hybrid language that was an Italian Albanian thing. My grandfather, of course, didn't like it because she spoke it with her girlfriends, and that was the story. Anyway,
you always
what I'm
speaking of
getting at
gag.
is...
I come in the room, you're speaking of gag.
I'm speaking, and in the language is like, I met one person on my travels who actually knew the language, and also a guy who was born down in the southern tip of Italy, and the language is really beautiful. Like for rain, the only word I know is shh, shh, and it's all these soft kind of really beautiful sounds. Nothing like you would think like a hard Italian or an Arabic sound. It was all like beautiful, almost like musical
People
sounds.
shushing each other.
Yeah, just people
Shut up. They didn't get the end. They didn't get to
I'm
the
trying
end
to
of
listen
it.
to the rain.
Shut the it's raining.
Shut the fuck up and get out of the rain. Oh, Danny. Well,
Danny, welcome
nice
to
to know that you haven't done
God
the 23andMe. That was a.
I didn't do the thing
You
because
didn't do the thing because somebody shushed you.
Well, I was worried that like you get the DNA out there, and then you know how it is in the world. Everybody knows all the shit about you.
They already know.
Huh?
They already know.
They already know?
They know.
Well, who's they?
The computer people.
Those guys.
The people.
They know.
Those guys.
Yeah. The deep state.
The deep state.
Deep state.
They know where you're from.
They know all about you, buddy. They know more than you know about yourself.
So when are we going back to work, by the way?
We start shooting at the end of January. We've got a lot of fun episodes that we've been talking about.
Oh man, that's exciting! Don't tell anybody.
No spoilers here.
No spoilers. Okay.
Well, should we visit the Ghost of Christmas Past, and should we discuss either your beginnings in the career? Should we go that far back, or should we just go Sunny?
No, we don't care about that.
Everybody knows all that. They can look it up.
Sonny.
Talk about the beginning of Sonny.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about Sonny.
Let's
Well, did
hear it.
Meg have?
so
do
like,
you have a structure?
I
would think
have
so.
some
Uh-oh.
questions, but
Oh,
it
she's
was
got
going to
The
begin
boss is
with
coming in.
asking you how you got involved with Sunny.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I tell you how I got involved with Sonny. Years and years ago, at Jersey, I worked with John Landgraf because he was at NBC, and I needed somebody to run my television department, and he came to work with me at Jersey Films. Okay, that was years and years ago. Then that all broke up, and then he got this gig with, FX. He called me one day. He said, I just did this show, 8 episodes of some really crazy show that I'm like, oh, I don't know, tell me what's your opinion? So he sent me the 8 episodes, and Rhea and I and the kids watched the show. I loved it. It was fucking outrageous, just the way they are. Okay. And we all, I immediately said, yeah, this is like amazing show. You should, whatever you're going to do with it, I don't know. And then I didn't hear from anybody, right? I don't talk to him all the time. All of a sudden he calls me up. He says, would you be interested in being on the show? And I said, yeah. I said, if they come up with organic character, something that was not just Danny DeVito coming into a show, if it made sense, and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, and it was a good character, and so they wrote me in, and of course, my 2 kids are tall and blonde, and so I had to have. Eventually, as we all know, my wife was a whore, and so so that was my first involvement in the show.
But why this show? To
Well,
return
you know what?
to television.
Everybody
Why?
asked me that.
Yeah.
Every single person that I knew asked me that. The doorman asked me that.
Yeah.
Anybody, why are you going to do that show?
This?
You were like a TV icon. You were in one of the most popular shows in the world, Taxi. You were all this blah, 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 blah. Why do this show? And I felt like it's why do you do anything? It's a gut feeling. You feel comfortable. Then I had that meeting with you guys where we sat and talked about it, where I was probably drunk. Sorry.
Dr. Kipper calling you.
It's Dr. Kipper.
Dr.
Yeah, I
Kipper.
swear to God.
Yeah, Kipper on the show.
Dr. Kipper.
Yeah.
You had him on
We
the
had him
show?
on the show,
Oh,
yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Hey,
You took the call.
Dave. Hey, man. Oh, no, Valentina? Oh, I'm not getting a needle. I'm hanging up on you. I'm not getting a shot. Okay, goodbye. I gotta go.
Danny, I often think about you having the foresight to, because I think it's really easy to start to get some success, to get really careful and protective of that success.
Yeah.
Just the guts to say, I think I'm going to jump into this thing, and to be able to see it and see the potential in it. I think, you often read about, like, I was just reading an article and it was talking about how much Burt Reynolds hated doing Boogie Nights and was just dragging PTA the whole time. And, like, I think there's a point in your career where you're like, what am I doing? I'm doing a movie about the porn industry. Or, like, what am I doing? I'm running around in Philly and they're shooting on these crappy little cameras. But I think you have that, and always have had that ability to just kind of see what could work.
Did you think?
A gift.
Well, you just thought. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, were you thinking that far ahead, or were you just like?
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking immediate. I always think like, right now, what's going on right now. So like, I did say what I said to Landgraf. He probably communicated it to you that I was interested. And then we had that meeting, and you told me the story.
There was a meeting before that because I came to your house, just me.
Okay.
And I remember that Lucy answered the door.
Right.
And I remember I was really nervous, and we weren't sure if it was going to happen. And it was not communicated to us that you were interested. You were interested, but you weren't in.
No, I wasn't in.
No. And so I had to go there and kind of pitch you the character that we had discussed.
That's what.
And Lucy answered the door, and from the time that she went and she like brought me into that old dining room area that you had, and she called out to you, and by the time you got there, I realized that you were going to do the show, and I knew you were because of how much Lucy loved the show.
She dug it.
And I feel like maybe that has to have had some kind of impact, that your kids were saying, Dad, you should do.
Oh yeah. Well, we were all pissing at the show. We loved it, but they were like really enthusiastic about it. And everybody, like, that you've all experienced this now because you're successful and you're on television for 16 years or whatever it is. And but the idea is that people will tell you, they'll warn you. Like, people said to me, "Wait, you're gonna do that cable show or whatever it was? You're gonna do that show after you go to a network show. You got to wait for movies to come along. You got to wait. And if you sit and let people do that to you, you'll never do anything. You got to go with your gut feeling. And then you wrote, great character, and and it was, and we digested the fact that that Sweet D and Dennis were like almost 6 foot tall and blonde. Well, it's my kids, but we worked on it. We worked on that,
But did your gut feeling tell you that show was going to go 15 plus years?
But I do know this about our show, that in the first couple of seasons that I was on the show already, we were still in the toilet, and it was like, and what it is it's sticking to it. Like, they stuck with us at FX, John and everybody. And they promoted it, and we kept doing it, and our enthusiasm, lifted it up. And then once we got track. Cheers, the first 2 seasons was in the toilet. Nobody saw that show. Brandon Tartikoff
really
stuck. Yeah, absolutely. And it's about a good show.
But that's why you hear John Landgraf talk all the time about. I was just speaking with him about this weekend. He talks about the streamers and algorithms and making decisions. He's like, shows like Sunny would never exist if we operated the same way.
Exactly.
You have to go with your gut, and sometimes your gut's wrong, and sometimes your gut's right, but it's the only thing you got.
But sticking to it is